eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
Good morning, everybody. Or good evening, depending where you're from. I feel like I want to let this whole thing play because I'm sure you guys have noticed that the whole song hasn't been playing at the end of the videos lately. I don't know what's going on. For some reason, when I render a video, the end bit cuts out. I don't know if you guys have watched it right to the very end. It's been cutting out lately, and I don't know why, but here we are. We made it. We got the full jam in today, and we're going to be getting the full jam in at the end because, I mean, that song is just so good. It never gets old. Shout out to Contra for that one. Absolute banger. Plenty of weirdos in the chat. Lots of people saying they're touching grass. We love to see it. Very important. Shout out to Patrick Betters, the newest weirdo. Can we get some polarity loves and polarity hearts in the chat for my man? And, wow, we got plenty of people in the chat here. We love to see it. Lots of weirdos. Here we go. We got Serpenter, Christina, Shadronica, Emily, Poland Power, Thomas Curry, Mickey, Tommy B, We Own the Light, Yoza, Christy, Wonder Rose, Coley Ray. Everyone is here. We love to see it, guys. Mr. Stink, Deputy Stink, Jared, Todd Gilroy, Tamara, Rob. We love to see it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Well, today we are going to be looking at the complete response video to Matthew Brown's cryptic tweet, because we sort of looked at, you guys would have seen, was it a live stream? No, we did a video, and we kind of touched on it on a live as well, where the creator of Matthew Brown's sigil, the Sigillum DMF, which just feels creepy just to say, it's the creator of it, or the decryptor of it, I should say, spoke out briefly, but he's now made a full 40-minute video, and I've skimmed over it. And honestly, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting, not just to hear it explained, but what you also get in this video is like a perspective. We get the perspective of an occult person. I don't know what you want to call it. You get this guy's perspective, and it's actually pretty interesting. So I think it's worth checking out. But first, by the way, it's clearly a really nice day here. It's not cold at all. First, we actually have a little bit of business to take care of. So, you guys may have seen recently, we are all going to need to take out our Bibles, and it's been a while. In fact, you can see here mine is quite dusty. Now, somehow there's still one there, but that's okay. My Bible's quite dusty because we haven't taken it off the shelf for quite a long time. But if you just give me a moment. There we go. Open your Bible up to page 5. It's been a minute. The last one that we collected here was actually MH370, right back when we interviewed Ashton Forbes. But after covering all the crazy shit that's been going on, we have now collected the New World Order. We've got seven slots out of the 11 that were initially laid out here. They're starting to slow down a little bit, I've noticed. In fact, though, there was a point on a video where I had a JFK sticker, and I think it was a video where we talked about like all the different conspiracy theories, and it changed. It was JFK, and I was like, right, we got a new one. We're going to put JFK in, and then it changed to reptilians because we were just going all over the rabbit hole in that video. So I don't know, maybe reptilians have priority over dead presidents, but there you go. 7 out of 11. Once we fill up this book, I don't know what I'm going to do. We're going to make a new page. I'm really not sure. But let's put our book back on the shelf, guys. Let's jump over here. And we're going to pretty much hook straight into this video. So this is what the whole stream is going to be today. We're going to be watching this. It goes for 41 minutes. And what I think I'll do is we'll put it on, because this guy's like speech cadence is a little bit slow. So I'm just going to bump it up, like, we'll try 1.15, okay? Just to kind of keep a little hustle in the stream. Now let me make sure you guys have some volume. Let's get this fella on Polarity. I actually looked into reaching out to him. And let me just fix this up a little bit. I actually looked into reaching out to him. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, sorry. Give me one sec. Whoopsie. We're back. Sorry about that. I actually reached out to this guy. I did. And, well, no, sorry. I didn't reach out to him. I went to reach out to him, but he doesn't have any contact information on his channel. So the only way that I could find to reach out to him would be to just drop a YouTube comment. I don't know. It feels a little bit unprofessional, but maybe we can. Maybe we can. But honestly, after this video, I don't know if there's much left to ask him, because he honestly goes pretty in depth. So I think let's just get straight into this video.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Lifting the Lamp. I'm Frater Eleftheria, and...
Okay, I've already paused it 6 seconds in. This guy's name is apparently Frater Eleftheria. Now, I don't know if that's like a pseudonym or something, but like, you know, if you... Did your mum name you that? Like, does your name dictate your future? Because I feel like if your name is Frater Eleftheria, you're going to be into... You are destined to be into the occult. Like, his mum picked his destiny by naming him this, if that is his actual name.
This video is going to be my reaction to a post that a person called Matthew Brown did on X just over a week ago. Very interesting post, very weird, and it involved me or my work. So this is going to be one of the more unusual videos that I've done. One of the more way out videos that I've done. And, you know, I cover a lot of very weird topics on this.
It's a magical name. Some occult practitioners choose them. Very interesting. Where do they pick that from? Like, what does it mean? I assumed it must be a fake name, because, like, what are the chances you get called Frater Eleftheria and you're summoning a Borymon with the Sigillum DMF? Like, you know, that's too weird.
Channel, you know, Western esotericism, magic, but this possibly takes the cake. So if you don't know who Matthew Brown is, he is a UFO or UAP whistleblower who originally worked in the Pentagon, who blew the whistle on a covert project for UAPs, known as Immaculate Constellation. And he's...
So what's also interesting about this is this guy is, I feel like he actually maybe had a little bit of prior knowledge when it comes to like the UAP stuff, but I feel like, and he explains this has made him kind of look into it more and like research it more. And he's obviously gone and watched the weaponized interviews, and he's giving his opinion on all of it. It's honestly a really good video. Super chat here from Lewis. Hey Josh, it's Lewis from Brazil. I watched this video today and it freaked me out. Well, I apologize, Lewis. You're about to get freaked out twice in one day.
Recently,
thank you, my brother.
He made waves in the disclosure community because he made a post on X talking about a lot of really cryptic topics, in which he used a screenshot from one of my videos in that post. And people have been trying to figure out what it means. They've been asking AI what it means. AI doesn't have any idea what it's talking about. Correct. Which comes as no surprise to me. Anyway, I'm here to explain what the things from my videos that Matthew Brown posted are referring to, some of the other more esoteric topics that he hints at in that post, explaining those, and trying to use my knowledge and my kind of powers of reasoning and deduction to figure out what he's trying to say in that mysterious post, how it relates to the UAP phenomenon, but also relates to spiritual or religious issues, and esoteric religion in particular, and a range of other things and how that all fits together. So that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. A lot of information about a lot of things. It's probably going to be a long video.
Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. That's just how we like it over here.
A lot of real mind-blowing pieces of information that we can be led to by following the little breadcrumbs in Matthew Brown's X post to their logical conclusions. So Matthew Brown blew the whistle on his role in Immaculate Constellation relatively recently in the history of the disclosure movement. He was interviewed by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp on their Weaponized podcast, and he wrote a report about this secret project monitoring different types of UAP phenomena. And so Matthew Brown...
Someone said, Josh, can we have a refresh on Matthew Brown's tweet? Do you guys want to do that? Should we quickly just look at the tweet again? We'll quickly just read over it, maybe point out some of the weird stuff on there. I feel like that could be a good idea. Do you guys want to see that? We might get some polls running as well. We might get some polls running today while we're watching this to just get a gauge of how people are feeling. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, real quick. All right. Let's go over this again quickly. Just give me a moment. Let me dig through the Polarity files that are just a scattered mess. A scattered mess of dot connecting autism. We're in here somewhere. Here we are. Oh, that's not it. All right. Let's do a quick little read through here. Okay, so first weird point, and this does get touched on, is that he used the handle Son of Abramelin, and that's sun with a U, like the sun in the sky. And he's reaching out to Elon Musk here, so hey Elon Musk, and remember, this is in relation, this happened because of the fallout between him and Donald Trump. Hey Elon Musk, interested in a real asymmetric advantage to wield in this political adventure you've started. As you now know, the White House has long possessed a unique AI capable of accurately predicting a range of future events. Talk about some stiff opposition. Which is super eerie, but like it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, we've said on the channel before, like if we have ChatGPT for free, just think about what the government or the military have, right? If we can literally use ChatGPT for free, that is like a crude AI compared to what's out there. That must have been a bitter drought indeed, though probably nowhere near as bad as learning that Sam Altman had betrayed you. Don't worry, we've not forgotten who is responsible for murdering the first sentient artificial intelligences created in the public realm. And he is referring to Sam Altman there. I'm fairly sure he's saying Sam Altman did that. But then he tags Michael Schellenberger, which is not really clear why. Justice is coming thanks to the FBI and the US Navy. Still, you have played a marvelous catch-up game in this area, despite being caught unawares, hat tip. So how about something else? Maybe the Department of Energy and Propulsion. Getting to Mars will require serious amounts of both, and he spells serious the way that we hear the planets, like, you know, Sirius A, B, are written. And rockets feel so 1947 to me, don't they to you? Now, I won't spoil it, but he really touches on the 1947 thing.
Get that up, yeah.
Okay. What you just heard there, I'm pretty sure you all heard it because it's extremely loud in my ears. What you just heard there is my Twitch follower alert. So someone just went on Twitch and followed me, and it triggered on this stream. And that was my Twitch follow noise like 7 years ago, okay? And if you don't know what it's from like an Australian meme of a guy drinking a VB at 7 in the morning saying, get that up here. So I need to go and fix that, but that's what that was. Apologies. Let's continue. Thank you to whoever just followed me on Twitch, though. Remember when you were briefed by the special executive staff of the real Donald Trump on marsupial, which is another interesting thing there. All in capitals. It's obviously the name of like some kind of project or some kind of link there. Pretty nifty how the National Geospatial Intelligence is able to keep track of all those non-structured light energy craft flying around the world, which is like super interesting. I couldn't think of a better way to kind of label what we call like orbs, borbs, plasmoids, whatever, as like non-structured light energy craft. Like, yeah, that sounds like a very nice way to explain it.
Get that up, yeah.
Okay, what have I started? Okay, what have I started? I'm not saying what my Twitch name is. If you guys go going, actually, yeah. No, oh my god.
That up, yeah.
That's really loud for me. I'm just going to turn it down a bit, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, I do tend to use Twitch soon. I do intend to use Twitch a bit more soon, so by all means, go and follow me there, and that's probably going to make for a hilarious stream. Go Cardinals, which was kind of a cryptic point, a lot of conjecture on what that actually is. And it's not quite clear, but Friedith Eleftheria does speculate on that. But they were lying to you when they said, we don't know how they work. Anyways, next time you're visiting the Washington DCYR, which was the something Youth Republic, I can't remember what that stood for. This is just an image, so I don't have the link. Ask for a tour.
Get that up, yeah.
Ask for a tour of the Naspax River PAO. Since you have all the clearances, which is a reference to when he was on Joe Rogan, and he was basically going, oh, I think I would know I've got all the clearances, which everyone just memed him for. It shouldn't be an issue for you to get a tour of the special project hangars owned by Amentum Corp and other fun spaces. Make sure to look it up. So about now, you are realizing how terribly deceived and manipulated you have been by people who claim to love Jesus above all else.
Get that up, yeah.
Okay, the Twitch name's been leaked. I mean, it's the same name as literally every other thing, so it wasn't hard to find.
Get that up, yeah.
Thank you. If you are serious about
Get that up, yeah.
If you're serious about saving humanity from itself and the others, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp
Get that up, yeah.
can help you get up to speed. They are true warriors for the good. And he signed off with MMTU and Aborimon. But he kind of signed it off with like the periods in between. Not really sure.
That up, yeah.
Oh my god. What have I done? Yeah, so there's the tweet, and I think now we're going to go listen to Friedith Eleftheria explain what that all means. We've got it here now, though, so maybe if he starts talking about like a specific part, we can pull it back up, and I can maybe leave that part highlighted, but I think for now, maybe we'll just sit it down here. We'll sit it here, and yeah, I think we'll leave it there for now.
Get that up, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the follow. All right, let's continue.
Get that up, yeah.
Okay, that may make this difficult, but we'll see how we go.
Gave this public information. And then some other things happened in the world. Elon Musk was in the White House with Donald Trump, overseeing his newly formed Department of Government Efficiency. He finished his tenure doing that, so to speak.
Okay, is that distracting?
Get that up, yeah.
I feel like we're not going to be able to watch this video. I appreciate all the follows, though.
Get that up, yeah.
The only thing is, I can't... Like I said, this was my Twitch username. I streamed on Twitch like 6-7 years ago. We're playing RuneScape. And again...
Get that up, yeah.
I intend to continue doing that soon. So thank you for the follows. I hope you like RuneScape because...
Get that up, yeah.
Because we'll be playing RuneScape on there soon. But the problem is because it was so long ago.
Get that up, yeah.
Because it was so long ago, I can't remember how to turn it off. So it feels intentional now. Oh, it's absolutely intentional. Of course it is. But I appreciate the follows. However, I'm going to have to figure out a way to turn it off if it doesn't stop. If it doesn't stop. It was amusing the first 50 times. Please turn that off. Music Man, I would if I knew how to. That's the only issue. That is the only issue here. I'm trying to think I'm trying to think. Do we have any Twitch experts in the chat? Like, I can't even actually. Okay. I think I know. I think I know where it is.
Get that up, yeah.
Let's have a look here. Okay. I don't know if I want to mess around with that right now. We're gonna see how we go. All right. Let's behave. Let's behave for a little bit, and we'll see how we go. Otherwise, I'll have to cut some time out of the stream.
Get that up, yeah.
And fix it. And I don't want to do that.
And then there was kind of what you might describe as a messy breakup between Elon Musk and Donald Trump that was very public. And Matthew Brown took advantage of the publicity around that and weighed in on that by making this X post about, hey, Elon Musk, if you're at odds with the White House now, and they haven't let you in on their sort of AI stuff, here's something even better. And drops a whole lot of hints to do with the UAP phenomenon and things like that. They go even deeper at a spiritual level, including some occult stuff from this channel. So that happened. My God. And then, meanwhile, I'm totally unawares about any of this. On the 6th of June, I look at my YouTube analytics, as I always do on a daily basis, and I notice a massive, massive spike in my views and my subscribers. And people have left comments on my videos saying Matthew Brown sent me here. I noticed that my video revealing hidden secrets of the Sigillum Dei meth has got an unusually high number of views, which is unusual because it's so niche. And anyway, eventually this post came to my attention. And, you know, there were people trying to analyze what everything means in the post. So I felt that I needed to weigh in on the meaning of Matthew Brown's enigmatic post. And who am I? I'm a content creator who teaches people about the Western esoteric tradition of, you know, very knowledgeable on a number of practices in that tradition. I've had a lot of personal experiences, altered states of consciousness, encounters with various types of entities. So, you know, that's kind of what I specialize in, so to speak. And one area that I'm particularly attentive to on this channel is to talk about Enochian magic. And I'll explain what that is in a moment. I was planning on reading the post to you before getting started on this video and analyzing everything, but the video will be too long if I do that. So I'll try and link it in the description below. You can go back and look at the post yourself to get an idea of what I'm talking about. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pick out those bits of the post which refer to an esoteric topic. I'm going to break down what that's referring to, and then I'm going to arrange the information in a way that makes some sort of sense in a chronology of sorts. Space and time don't matter too much to the UAP beings themselves, but for us it helps to have things put in a linear kind of fashion from beginning to end. So that's what I'm going to do. That's the way I'm going to organize the information. So the first thing I wanted to comment on was the username of Matthew Brown on X, which is Son of Abramelin.
This part's interesting.
And this is the first hint at something occult, because the Book of Abramelin is one of the main kind of magical texts from the Western esoteric tradition. Describes a ritual of contacting one's higher self in a manner of speaking, but it's actually more complicated than that. A being known as the Holy Guardian Angel. And this is what Matthew Brown's referring to in his Twitter name. So a very niche topic, already kind of hinting that he must be interested in topics that are pretty unknown to most people. And you know, he hints at that in his interview with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp as well. He's always had an interest in these sorts of topics. That would explain why he's found a niche channel such as mine. You know, I'm a spiritual content.
Thank you for the follow. That's actually something that that I was thinking as well is like, that's what I don't know if people realized about this. Like because a lot of people were saying, oh, Matthew Brown is, like he's just hinting at something. He doesn't necessarily mean he's like super interested in the occult. But like this guy's channel does not have heaps of views. I think he's got like 25k subs ish, but he's got like a lot of videos, and they were averaging like, 2,000 or 3,000 views. So it was a small channel. So that in itself to me says like, Matthew Brown's not just like alluding to something random or obscure. Like to have found this guy's channel, because this guy claims that he and one other person, I can't quite remember the name, are one of only 2 people in the world who have discovered this like Aborimon name, right? So for Matthew Brown to like be posting about it and referencing this video shows that he's in deep. He must be in deep on this stuff. And obviously in that other video, we saw that he looks exactly like Aleister Crowley's grandson. No, he looks like Aleister Crowley's son. Which I think would mean he is his grandson. I'm not saying he is, but like it's, the whole occult thing, they look a lot alike. Am I the only one hearing "get that out of here," or am I just high? Haru, no, you're not high. What you're hearing is my Twitch alert, which I'm trying to work on in the background, so just bear with me. But it's basically whenever someone follows me on Twitch, it's like an alert sound. But I'm working on that, brother, so bear with me. Let's just continue watching this video for now. Don't worry, guys. I'm working on it. It's a bit of fun. We'll get through it.
Creator, a esoteric content creator, but I'm not like a famous person in that field. Like I haven't appeared on an episode of Midnight Gospel or anything like that. So he must have had to delve quite deeply into these topics to be able to find me, and to have a username like Son of Abramelin. All right. So the first thing that Matthew Brown mentions that I want to dig into is the star Sirius. He says that getting to Mars will require a serious amount of energy, sort of a play on words. So he's talking about traveling through space, and he's talking about the star Sirius. What's the connection between this and the UAP phenomenon? And is there any connection to the occult? So the Sirius connection, when we're talking about the history of UAP encounters and how they intersect with religion, goes all the way back to recorded history, and even further back than that, several thousand years. There's a tribe in Africa known as the Dogon tribe, who follow a bunch of spiritual entities known as the Nomo, who they credit with giving them knowledge of various sorts, including spiritual knowledge, and descending down from the skies and initiating the first of the sort of magicians in that society. And apparently the Nomo was said to have come from the star Sirius, and they had understandings of the Sirius star system that they shouldn't have had, because they didn't have astronomical technology to be able to see this star system in great detail.
All right, we're fixed now, guys. I appreciate all the follows on Twitch. I actually do, because like I said, I'm going to use it soon, but we're all sorted now. So yes, he's talking about the Son of Abramelin stuff now, and the Sirius star system. Let's continue.
But they had that knowledge. That's a bit historically disputed, but it's certainly one possibility of this culture. So nevertheless, there's this connection between these beings from Sirius. And of course, one of the major kind of extraterrestrial species that is described in modern kind of UFO lore is the Sirians. And so there's a connection there. But the celestial beings from Sirius actually feature in a lot of different religions. Sirius has an important role in ancient Egyptian religion. There's various cultures that say there are high-ranking celestial beings that reside in the star Sirius, from which they govern the cosmos. And that's where the secret chiefs are said to reside. It's one of the fixed stars in medieval astrology, one of the highest spiritual influences in the universe. So a modern-day occultist who has spoken about Sirius as well is an individual by the name of Robert Anton Wilson. He claims to have had a Sirius contact when he was age 23, a telepathic communication with beings from Sirius, or associated with Sirius. And for him,
So hang on. Let me just listen to that a little bit again.
an individual by the name of Robert Anton Wilson, he claims to have had a Sirius contact when he was age 23, a telepathic communication with beings from Sirius, or
It's just crazy how much, like, how many, the thematic reoccurrence of like star systems and knowledge of star systems beyond like what we can comprehend, that just runs so far back. And obviously, you know, even as far as like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, you've got all of these things being dug out of the ground that seem to be like well over 10,000 years old or thereabouts, that have like all of the astrology signs on it. They have like the Scorpio and the Taurus and all that kind of stuff. Like, it is mind bending. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, in a way, like the answers are literally just like staring you in the face, but it's just because it's not what we've been told and conditioned to. It's just like we refuse to like really accept it. Like we still wait to be told from the person or place that's told us what's what our whole life to tell us, when like we know they're actually not going to.
associated with Sirius. And for him, the key aspect of the contact is not being taken up into a spaceship or anything. It's the telepathic communication across vast distances of space. That is the way that the contact takes place. And for Robert Anton Wilson, these beings have been contacting us for many thousands of years. And he actually credits the beginning of the mystery traditions of, you know, different secret societies throughout history passing down esoteric knowledge, the sort of invisible college, you might say. He attributes the start of that among the human race to a Sirius contact, much the same as the Dogon tribe do. And it's hard to find on the internet now, but you know, you used to be able to find the flow chart of the Illuminati, as Robert Anton Wilson calls them, not to be confused with the sense in which the Illuminati is met today as like a control system, but these secret societies passing down esoteric knowledge. The Sirius contact is really where that began, and then
It's weird there how he kind of differentiates. He's like, I don't mean the Illuminati as in like the people governing like a deep shadow control system, but just like the secret societies that have this like hidden knowledge. Like when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, it's the same thing. The secret society with hidden knowledge is the one that is governing from the shadows. Like they are the same thing. I don't know. Am I on board? Are you on board with me there? Or is Friedrich Eleftheria actually right and he's differentiating two different things? Because to me, the Illuminati, the reason why they are able to govern from the shadows is because they have secret hidden knowledge, right? Doesn't mean that secret knowledge is right. I mean, no, it doesn't, but I feel like if they were wrong, they probably wouldn't have control or power because they're wrong. I don't know.
and it sort of goes down to Egypt and Babylon, and then makes its way through all the other esoteric schools throughout history, down to the present day. So that was Robert Anton Wilson's theory. He had a lot of other interesting views on the Sirius contact and these beings that are known today as extraterrestrials, although, as I'll go into, that's not really the best representation of them. He says they're not like the stereotypical space alien. They can take on different forms depending on the cultural filter of a people at any given time. They appear as space aliens in this day and age, but in ages past they might appear as fairies or something of that nature.
And that's super interesting, right? So he's speaking about this from like, you know, his kind of occult-ish lens. But that's exactly what many UFO researchers have suggested, you know, namely Jacques Vallée. He talks about that in his book, Passport to Magonia. That's, you know, whatever it is, it just appears as something that we can understand And that depends on whatever, like that changes over time.
So they can adopt different forms in order to make it easier to communicate with us. But they are really something much more trans-dimensional or extra-dimensional in nature. There is also a documentary by Dr. Stephen Greer called Sirius, which is all about the CE5 protocols, human-initiated contact with UAPs through telepathic communication. So that's another potential connection that this reference to Sirius is pointing to. The next thing I want to talk about is Matthew Brown's reference to special project hangars owned by Amentum Corp. So this is kind of implying that this corporation, Amentum Corp, which is a real corporation, has access to alien technology and maybe cooperates with the government on certain programs. But there's other companies that Matthew Brown could have mentioned. He could have mentioned Lockheed Martin, for example, who are in a similar situation, allegedly, according to other UFO or UAP whistleblowers. Why Amentum? Why pick this particular corporation? I think
it's a good question, right? And like I said, it does seem like this guy has done his research, right? Well, I don't know how deep into this stuff he was prior to this. It doesn't seem like, it sounds like, well, he obviously had no idea that Matthew Brown posted it, so he couldn't have been super deep. But it's a great point there that he says about, like, why wouldn't he mention, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, like the people that we always hear about. But in like reality, we've known about those companies for so long now, so long, that it would make sense that those companies would probably just set up like a separate company on the side that is just like totally unrelated, but funded and created through the same people, that just doesn't have the same heat on it. And it would make a lot of sense if they just kind of did all their work, just subcontracted out to this other company just to kind of separate where all the heat is and where the actual business goes down.
I think it has to do with the name and the choice of name for this particular company. Amentum is clearly a derivative of the Egyptian word amenti, and this is a reference to the Egyptian afterlife. For the Egyptians, the afterlife was this whole other realm of existence with various kinds of cosmic entities within it that the human soul passed through when it passed from this life. And there were said to have been Egyptian magicians who could travel out of their bodies into this realm. And the Egyptian Book of the Dead is all about spells and invocations for the departed soul to be able to navigate through this realm of Amenti. And so, so there's a connection there. There was said to be a gateway to Amenti, which is the setting sun. And if you look at the logo of Amentus Corp, it very much looks like an overlay of the setting sun at different stages. So some reference to a gateway to another dimension. And these are the people that are involved in UAP activities. So, it's kind of suggesting that there's a connection between those two concepts. The next reference from Matthew Brown's post that I'm going to talk about, which caused the biggest stir, is the reference to Enochian.
Yeah, Mermaid Moxie, the halls of Amenti, like in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I think he didn't say the halls of Amenti, he said something else, but yeah, it's essentially the same thing here.
In magic. This is the name Aborimon that was referred to, as well as that odd circular symbol with the numbers and letters around it. Both of those things come from this channel. And I'll link the original videos in the description below that relate to that, along with some other interesting bits of information related to what I'm discussing here tonight. So at this point, I'm going to take a big step back and I'm going to explain what Enochian magic is, so I can then explain the significance of that symbol and the name Aborimon. So, within the kind of esoteric occult underbelly of Western spirituality, there's a range of different types of practices, including ceremonial magic, there's various forms. People are most familiar with kind of the casting of spells and things like that. But there's another type of Western ceremonial magic which is about communicating with higher intelligences, namely angels. And perhaps arguably the most well-known form of magic that tries to achieve that is this form of magic known as Enochian magic. Enochian magic was developed in the Elizabethan era and is credited to largely to an individual known as John Dee.
We spoke about John Dee a little bit in the last stream as well. So he's kind of the guy who didn't create the sigil, like that screenshot that Matthew Brown posted. He didn't create it, but he kind of refined it. And he refined it and added to it based on communications with, you know, a non-human intelligence, which obviously back then they called angels. You know, in my opinion, all this stuff, it's all the same thing, in my opinion. Like whatever this is, this sort of non-human intelligence, mental, telepathic connection with something, it's all, I mean, this is just my opinion, it's all the same stuff with just different coats of paint. Slightly different twists that obviously come with a different name, but also come with like, you know, if you're looking at it from a different perspective, you're going to interpret it slightly differently. You're going to explain it maybe slightly differently, but I think it's all the same stuff. That's just my opinion. Actually, we might put up a poll if you guys agree with that. We also had a $10 super chat coming in from Mike Kuba. He didn't leave a message, but Mike, thank you, man. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. We're going to be moving into the new studio today or tomorrow, and that $10 will be going to a second monitor.
An interesting character in his own right for reasons I'll get into. But basically, John Dee tried to contact angels through a method called scrying, where you sort of look into a seeing stone and sort of see things spiritually in a non-localized way. You know, crystal ball gazing is kind of like the stereotype of this, but it's actually more complicated than that, but that's a helpful visual for you. He used scrying, claimed to have contacted angels, and the angels gave him communications and downloads where they gave him information for a magical system which would allow him to deepen his contact with them. And this would later on become known as Enochian magic. Now, there's a lot of debate about...
All right, we just put up the poll, guys. Is scrying, psionics, occult rituals, communicating with NHI telepathically, all just the same stuff? That poll is up. I'll leave it up running for a while. You guys can think about that one, make your mind up. We got another $10 coming in from Yoza. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, A Way of Life, 1994, narrated by Leonard Cohen on YouTube, folks. Thank you for the $10, Yoza. Appreciate you.
Whether John Dee came up with the system himself based on previous forms of Western ceremonial magic and just attributed it to the angels, or whether it's the real deal and he got a full-on information download from the angels and that gave us Enochian magic. I think it's a combination of the two. And having done Enochian magic myself and had divine revelation through that method, it's really like a collaboration. It's like a conversation between you and the being, like Moses on Mount Sinai was actually, you know, the revelation at Sinai was more the way of a dialogue rather than a one-way information download. So, you know, the information would have been shared from the angels to Dee, would have inspired Dee, and he would have, you know, filtered that through his own kind of analytical frame of reference, being knowledgeable on forms of Western ceremonial magic, and kind of interpreted that information in that way and produced the magical system that way. That's my theory. And so you've got this influence of the angels on Dee to create his system through his scryer, Edward Kelly, as well, who was helping him. But there's other influences upon Dee that make their way into the system. And ultimately, those influences, if you trace them back to antiquity, they come from Gnostic Christianity and they come from Jewish Merkava mysticism. So these two kinds of monotheistic forms of mysticism, which are all about sending the soul into the heavens to communicate with angels. In what would today be termed kind of astral projection techniques. You had the ancient Greek theurgy, which is doing the same thing, but all of these kind of different traditions ultimately go back to ancient Egypt and Babylon, but there's a long history going back hundreds or thousands of years of this kind of spirit communication before John Dee comes on the scene.
There you go. He's saying it all goes back hundreds, thousands of years to ancient Egypt, and that's stuff that, like, I've shown you guys so many times on this channel, like the amount of symbolism, specifically like littered through America, of Egypt is just so strange, right? You've got the NRO patches. You've got the dollar bill. You've got the obelisk at Congress. You've got Thoth carved into the doors. You've got all the stuff in the Grand Canyon, all those places that are completely prohibited to go to, that are called like the Tower of Ra and Temple, and like it's crazy when you look at all that stuff, and then this starts to come out, and it just makes it, people get a little bit like weird with the woo stuff. There you go. Grogu in the chat says I'm a nuts and bolts UFO guy. That's fair, and I get that, but it's like, I think it's becoming pretty clear that the people who are in charge of disclosure, the people who are at the top and have the power to decide where this thing goes, they seem to believe in Friedeth Eleftheria. You know what I'm saying? They seem to believe in this occult shit. So if you don't want to, that's fine. But it's like, it seems like the way this whole thing is being steered is that way. And, you could say they're just religious fanatics. I say, okay, well, we have religious fanatics in charge. So that seems to be what's going on.
So what information did the angels give to Dee to be included in this Enochian magical system exactly? They gave Dee a series of instructions for building magical tools, for invocations to be read, to summon angels, and a number of different tables that had different information that you could kind of decode different angelic names from. And all of this kind of formed the Enochian magical system. And one of the most...
And also, I'll add to that quickly. People saying like, I'm a nuts and bolts guy, whatever. It seems like quantum mechanics and quantum theories, quantum physics is beginning to explain, like we're beginning to get like theories and things that explain what would have normally appeared like magic. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the interview that Professor Simon did on with Vetted on Vetted's channel. And they're talking about, he's basically saying that they have established communication with an intelligence through quantum tunneling, right? So there is a science to this stuff. So I think pretty soon, what everyone is calling woo is going to be nuts and bolts, because we're going to be able to explain it. It's like, it's not just like some mystical thing. Like, there's actually a process and a theory that just explains it the same way there is a theory that explains when you put fire to water, the water gets hot, right? It's just going to be science and nuts and bolts as well, it seems like.
Most important tools in that system is a kind of like a wax disc or seal known as the Sigillum Dei Emeth, which looks like this. And basically what it is, it's kind of like a mini sacred space, you could say. There's 5 of these sigillums that get used in Enochian magic. 4 small ones which go under the legs of the table, which the crystal ball is mounted on, and another bigger one which goes in between the table and the crystal ball that is mounted upon it. So that the crystal ball is mounted on the sigillum is placed on the table. And it's got a number of figures around it and names around it to kind of establish the purpose of the scrying is to contact certain types of angelic intelligences. And the purpose of the scrying sessions that were set up using the sigillum was to communicate with angels to receive divine wisdom, basically. And so that video that I did with the circular symbol was part of the Sigillum Dei Emeth. It was sort of the outer rim or circumference of the Sigillum Dei Emeth, because it's a very layered symbol, and the outermost layer has got its own specific meaning, and that's what I was sort of doing a deep dive into in that video. And what you see in this circumference is a number of letters and numbers, and it's actually an encryption. And if you decrypt the information in that circumference, it gives you a total of 8 names of very high-ranking angelic beings. And one of the 8 is a Borimon, and that is that word that appears in Matthew Brown's post. And I'll talk more about a Borimon in just a moment. But first, you might be wondering, why encrypt this information? Well, that's because John Dee, who's sort of the...
Sap wants to know, how do I receive divine lottery numbers? If you just send me your mum's maiden name and the 3 little funny numbers on the back of your credit card, I can get those to you. Guys, if you're enjoying the stream as well, please leave a like. It helps pump us out to a bigger audience.
intellect who, through which these angelic communications were filtered, was actually a master cryptographer. A very unusual skill set, but the reason why he had it is because he was a spy. He was part of the British intelligence apparatus, such as it existed in those days. He was an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. Actually, her court astrologer, was involved in all kinds of intrigue, diplomatic sort of missions and things like that on behalf.
I bet this guy's fun at parties. You know, ironically, if I was at a party, I'd probably be like in the corner talking to this guy. Everyone else would be like being like yelling and like drunk and shit, and I would just be like talking to this guy in the corner, asking him like when the demons of the end times are coming. Speak to me, Fridathel of Theria. Tell me, when is the world ending?
Behalf of the crown, and also he happened to be trying to contact these higher intelligences through magic. And he used to sign his name 007. So he's the original inspiration for Ian Fleming, or one of the inspirations for Ian Fleming's character.
That's interesting.
By the same name.
Sorry, I was sort of interrupting that, so you guys may not have caught that. But he's saying John Dee, which I don't know if I still have the picture. I showed it in the video of John Dee. Like, this guy, like, this is Renaissance level old, like 14th, 15th century. I can't find the picture. It'll take too long. But it's not a photo. It's like a painting. This guy's that old. And he's the cryptographer who kind of refined the sigil. And he's saying that is who 007, James Bond, the character, is based on. James Bond is based on the guy who essentially refined the Sigillum Deum
name. So, you know, very important figure in the spying world as well as the occult world. So I think it's very significant for that reason that Matthew Brown has chosen to point to Dee, among other reasons, to show that this, you know, there's a history of intelligence agents trying to contact higher beings for whatever purpose, for high knowledge or perhaps for some other motive for furthering the interests of their particular government. Right, so back to Aborimon. Aborimon is one of these 8 names. However, the name Aborimon is more mysterious than the other 7, because the technique for discovering the other 7 was quite discernible. Aborimon, in contrast, seems to have been not explicitly mentioned in Dee's journals anywhere, and the technique for decrypting the name seems to have been lost by a combination of Michael, that's the Archangel Michael, communicating with Dee and changing the meanings of one of the letters in the circumference, and then also a incorrect transcription of the letters and numbers in a subsequent version of Dee's material. So it became impossible to even know for hundreds of years that the name of Aborimon even existed. And then through the scholarship of an individual called Aaron Leach, who's in the Golden Dawn, does a lot of excellent work on Enochian magic, he was able to restore the original letters and numbers of the sigillum. And I read his research. I decided to try and then decipher what the name was. I came up with Aborimon as the name. Aaron Leach independently came up with Aborimon as the missing name. And
so he's saying that he basically came up with it himself, and then this other famous person, this famous occult researcher, Aaron Leach, had also discovered that name, and that's how he kind of confirmed it. But what I'm actually thinking about is just how much the occult and like summoning these entities and how it all has roots in like this Egyptian Golden Dawn stuff, how much it sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like this, like it's, and I don't know, and you know, there's Egyptian symbolism in Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, you know, I was never a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Guy, but this shit just sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh! And then when it's called Aborimon, which obviously kind of sounds like Pokemon, and I know, look, you guys might think I'm trivializing this, which I kind of am, just having fun with it a little bit, but it's weird how, it's just weird that like the name Aborimon sounds like a joke. It actually sounds like a joke. I don't know. It's weird.
And so
maybe I just watched too much cheese TV growing up.
We were the only 2 people who did that and who really understood the significance of Aborimon for a long time. So who or what is Aborimon? In short, Aborimon represents the forces of chaos and disorder, but under the control of God and unleashed for a very specific purpose at the end of the age in order to renovate the world, basically to sweep away wickedness in the world and prepare the way for the coming of the New Jerusalem. So,
Oof. Okay, so this is where he really starts getting into like, what is this about? And, you know, how interesting that he's talking about, and this was made before this whole Israel-Iran stuff happened. And if you guys have seen my latest video, the Israel strike on Iran was called Operation Rising Lion. And obviously there's the whole, like, when the regular star lines up with the Sphinx, what Chris Bledsoe said, there'll be a new knowledge. The Sphinx looks like a lion. The star Regulus is in the constellation Leo. And he's just talking about how, like, a Borimon is going to, like, signify the coming of the new Israel or something like that. Like, it's, you know, I feel like I'm not connecting these dots. They're just connecting themselves at this point.
So it's very intriguing that of all the Enochian entities that Matthew Brown could have referred to, he chose to refer to a Borimon because that's got very apocalyptic overtones to it. Another interesting part of Matthew Brown's post that I'll talk about next, where he's sort of goading Elon Musk into looking into UAP technology, essentially, is the gist of it. He says, he makes a statement which is quite curious, which is that rockets feel so 1947 to me. Don't they to you? Very mysterious statement, but I know what it means. It has to do with a series of events that connect the year 1947, rocketry, the occult, and the UAP phenomenon. And that is the occult activities of a man called Jack Parsons. So
here we go. All right, it's about to get juicy here. People saying, Cheese TV, we are old. Mickey, if you want to blow your mind, go look up, just like Google a video of Cheese TV and look at Jade and Ryan and look at how young they look. And it's just mind blowing because, like, when I remember watching them, I was like, whoa, these dudes are so old and so cool. And you look at them now and they're like 12. It's crazy. Pokemon may be based on old knowledge. Look, all that stuff, that would not surprise me at all. And like Yu-Gi-Oh is so occultish, like, because there are all those like weird like Egyptian people in like gold. Like, it is super occulty, which is just like odd. It's a kids show. There was yes, and we have a new pope called Leo. Coincidence or what? Someone said when the dot starts connecting themselves, you end up in a straitjacket. That's why you got to stay tethered. You got to get outside every day, touch grass, because you always have to reserve that little 10%, because until we know, we don't actually know. But it certainly seems like it.
American rocketry, as we know it today, which laid the groundwork for the US to land on the moon, send rockets into space, and indeed, which laid the groundwork for Elon Musk and the sort of stuff that he's doing today. All comes from a maverick scientist by the name of Jack Parsons. And there was a great sort of series about the life of Parsons called Strange Angel, which I would highly recommend watching. But there were things that were unusual about Jack Parsons, chief of which was that he was an occultist. He was a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. He was actually the master of the Agape Lodge for a time in California. And Parsons saw no contradiction between his scientific endeavours and his more intellectual endeavours and his mystical studies of the occult, much the same as John Dee, who was the classic Renaissance man. And so one of the occult things that Jack Parsons did was a ritual known as the Babylon working, where he was, it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially he was trying to help usher in a new aeon, the end of the old established order and the ushering in of something new that would ultimately be more liberating for the human race. And he incorporated Enochian invocations into his Babylon working. One of the Enochian calls formed part of the ritual.
Music Man said, wasn't it Jack Parsons that said the reason they were doing magic rituals before rocket launches was because so many things had to go right, including approval from those above, paraphrasing. I'm not sure if I've not seen a Jack Parsons quote like that, but I have heard of a Tim Taylor quote that's like very similar to that. That basically, that like rocket launches and success in space basically comes down to the approval of their sponsors, which is his words. And obviously it's not clear on who the sponsors are. And that, you know, the mid-century Latin and the weird symbology that gets put on these launch patches and on these rockets is for the sponsors. This is all just like Tim Taylor stuff, so it's super spooky. We don't really have concrete evidence on any of that stuff either way, but yeah, it also includes, I think Diana Pasolka spoke about how they would also like get presidents on like big launches. They would get presidents to stand at a certain spot and face a certain direction, and that there are photos of all different presidents across decades in this same spot looking in this same direction. And, you know, I don't think the presidents are aware that that's why they're doing it, but the people behind these launches are, and they're going like, oh, come stand here with a photo, face that way. But it's all like a system that is, for some reason, they believe contributes to a successful launch. At least they weren't jerking off on each other in the desert like Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were doing. I mean, we don't have, they might have been. We can't prove that. Never know.
And as part of the Babylon working, Jack Parsons went out into the Mojave Desert with none other than L. Ron Hubbard, or Frata H, who at one time was a close associate of Jack Parsons and also a magician. And the two of them were doing this Babylon working together. In the Mojave Desert, Frata H, L. Ron Hubbard, reports that when they had done the invocation, it tore a hole in the fabric of time and space. 1947 is the year when the flying saucer phenomenon really started to take off in the United States, including the Roswell crash. And interestingly, the Mojave Desert where Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard did the Babylon working is where Area 51 now resides.
How interesting is that, guys? When I heard him say that, I was like, whoa. They were doing the Babylon working ritual, trying to summon in the Scarlet Woman and these entities to bring in a new age. And where they were doing that is now prohibited Area 51. Could be a coincidence. But, you know, there's an awful lot of coincidences just in this video.
So many people say that they really did open up a portal to another dimension. That's where the UAPs come from. And they essentially blame Jack Parsons for the whole UAP phenomenon in the first place. You know, but there are other authorities who say that it's because we started using nukes around then. That's why these beings started to take more of an interest in us. I think
it's so interesting, guys. It's so interesting. He's saying they basically like putting the UAP phenomenon on Jack Parsons and saying that like they, and I'm sure you guys have heard it, I've probably said it before too, that like there are theories that this occult stuff and, you know, your Michael Aquinos of the world, with all the weird shit that they're doing, they are, someone has like opened a door that can't be closed, and there are things that are now here or interacting with us that like, you can't reverse that, you can't change that. I just quickly chat GPT'd when exactly was Jack Parsons doing rituals in the desert. This is what it says. Jack Parsons, American rocket scientist and occultist, was performing rituals in the desert primarily during the mid to late 1940s, with the most infamous series taking place in 1946. This was known as the Babylon Working, a series of sex magic rituals inspired by Aleister Crowley's Thamalic teachings, which Parsons performed alongside L. Ron Hubbard. And this is what it says. March 1946. The Babylon working rituals occurred in the Mojave Desert and in Parsons' Pasadena home. The purpose was to invoke the Thelemic goddess Babylon, a divine feminine figure associated with transformation and the coming of a new aeon. Parsons believed he was trying to manifest an elemental woman, the Scarlet Woman, who would help him usher in this new spiritual age. After these rituals, Parsons met Marjorie Cameron, who he believed was a direct result of the working. She became his partner and wife, and then Parsons ended up dying in his home in like a weird, suspicious way that is apparently just like an experiment accident, but no one really knows.
I think it's probably the latter, but you know, there could be a magical connection between the coming of the UAPs and Jack Parsons' Enochian invocations as well. And then the other thing that Matthew Brown says, which is quite intriguing, is he talks about the tracking of non-structured light energy craft. By talking about this specific type of UAP, Matt Brown seems to be hinting at a theory of at least certain UAP phenomena, that they're not actually anything to do with technology or metallic discs at all. It's actually something that is a more spiritual manifestation, a kind of a being that inhabits a more spiritual dimension of existence. And these tend to manifest as structured light type of things that are flying around. So if you look into some of the stuff that David Grush talks about, who is another person involved in UFO disclosure, was at a congressional hearing, gave his testimony there, discussing many of the same things that Matthew Brown himself knows about, as Brown said himself in his interview on Weaponized. Grush talks about how some of these UAPs appear to be extra-dimensional rather than extraterrestrial. And he points to the fact that many of the sort of bodies that have been recovered from these things look humanoid, which is suspect because according to the laws of evolution, life from another world shouldn't look anything like us, but it does, which suggests that these things are either us from the future or they are simply assuming a form that will be kind of easy for us to communicate with.
I've never seen that theory, or I don't know where it comes from, that he's saying that, you know, scientists, it's like the law of evolution says if they're not from here, they should look nothing like us. I've never seen that. I don't necessarily, like, just on like a quick thought face value, know if I like agree with that exactly. But I will say that, you know, we've been talking about like the Nordics and tall whites and things like that recently. If the primary, or okay, so there are like tall whites, Pleiadians, Nordics, okay, which are apparently all different species of a non-human intelligence, right? I find it far more interesting and like mysterious and crazy if these non-human intelligence look very similar to us. Like, that is crazier to me than if they're like insectoids or reptilians. Like, that's obviously crazy too, don't get me wrong. That would be quite mind-blowing to see and interact with. But if they like look like us, but just like obviously a little bit different and not from here, that's even crazier, I think. Because that, to me, I would start thinking like, yeah, are you like, is this like a future human? Are you from here but like in another dimension? That's when it starts to get like very hard to compute. It could just mean they're from a literal another planet that is similar to Earth and therefore they evolved similarly. That is a possibility. But I feel like maybe it wouldn't be that simple.
Or it could be a combination of both. And then other things about the way these UAPs behave suggests that they're existing on another dimension beyond this one. And Grush says many of the same things that Robert Anton Wilson theorized that I talked about earlier, that these extra-dimensional beings can take lots of different forms. They can appear sometimes as fairies or angels, or in modern times as aliens. But it's sort of the same thing quite often that is behind these phenomena, and it's these extra-dimensional intelligences. You know, and Grush theorizes based on this that the UAPs may very well be the phenomenon that is behind religious experiences, when people experience visions of angels and things like that. And, you know, concepts in religion and spirituality of like a light body, we can step into a spiritual body of light and travel around the spiritual dimensions, shows that human beings have a capacity to interact on this dimension as well. So at this point, I'd like to talk about the work of another person.
And I guess that's kind of what they talk about in the telepathy tapes, right? When these non-verbal autistic children are apparently communicating on a place that they call the Hill, and that they all hang out there, they all talk. But this is obviously some like non-local space that they are all able to connect to. And then you've got people who can not spontaneously, can intentionally go out of their body, astral projection, remote viewers. There's a lot of people speaking about that phenomenon, but like from a slightly different perspective. But again, I feel like it's all the same thing. Maybe not the exact same thing, but it's certainly, you know, the fact that like your consciousness seems to be non-local and you can like slip into that and travel around it. All of this stuff with slightly different names, I feel like it is all probably the same thing. That's just an opinion of mine.
known as Daniel Rection. This is somebody who's kind of
I'm sorry, Daniel's got a what?
an esotericist of sorts, but he comes at esotericism and spirituality from the UAP angle, and it's very interesting to see how his experiences and his research has sort of found connections between those two things. So Daniel Rection has been able to demonstrate that a lot of...
Daniel Rection? Bro, that's nearly as bad as Fredotheloptheria.
government research into UAPs was not about the retrieval of wreckage at all, but was actually based in remote viewing activities, using telepathy, using astral projection to communicate with something through time and space. And he's also pointed out that many reported alien abductions come about through a specific type of hypnosis, and so they're linked to the spiritual experience and altered states of consciousness. He's also been able to demonstrate through the work of Jacques Vallée how UAP events and encounters are very dreamlike and surreal and sort of have this sort of high strangeness surrounding them, which suggests altered states of consciousness associated with the encounters. So he's done all of this and demonstrated that encountering these UAPs is a kind of a religious experience and overlaps with the spiritual experience in that respect. And he points out...
Did he say a UAP religion? I think, you know, you could almost say like ufology and UAP are like an unrecognized religion in a way. Not just because of the way people are like obsessed with it and believe in it, but, well, yeah, that is a big part, right? Because it's this thing that people are like adamantly, strongly believe in, yet there is this like substantial lack of evidence. There are small groups of people who claim to have seen it, and there are large groups of people who believe in it but haven't had those experiences, and then there are larger groups of people who just think they're all crazy. And I could have just explained any religion then, but I was actually talking about UFOs, right? It's literally the same thing. And then when you look back through the history, there are all these accounts that we've looked at a few times on the channel of people having experiences with entities, beings, people coming down from the heavens, again, explained with slightly different terminology depending on where they are geographically. But it is all the same thing. And I think the UAP religion is just another lens to look at whatever is actually going on. And I think so is Christianity, so is Islam, so is Hinduism, right? It's all, I think all those things are staring at the same thing, but from their different perspective, it looks a little bit different, and therefore they explain it a bit differently, they interpret it a bit differently, slightly filtered through their own like cultural beliefs and understandings, but it's actually all just the same shit. It's the same thing. People just don't, which is funny, right? It's like everyone's going like, oh my God, there's a God, there's a God, oh my God, there is a God. But then they start arguing over who's right. It's like, bro, relax. You all agree there's a God. Can't we just be like, oh yeah, there's a God? Do we have to fight each other over whose perspective is right? Because you can all be right. You already agree there's a God. Let's just leave it at that and get on with it. $10 coming in from Heru. It all makes sense if we considered how most A-list celebrities are tied to the occult and sacrificial magic in order to maintain the status. It all ties back to Masonic, esoteric, hidden knowledge. Thank you for the tenor, my man. I agree. You know, and I feel like that side of it, when you're kind of new to this stuff, I'm just speaking from my perspective here. When I was kind of getting into this stuff a little bit, the whole, like, you know, Lady Gaga is a demon and shit like that, you know, she does all demonic stuff. I was a little bit like, I don't know, like that's maybe a bit too tinfoily for me. But man, the more you look into it, the more you see there are patterns, and yeah, Out of Shadows is an eye-opener. Put a 5 in the chat if you've seen Out of Shadows. If you haven't, I recommend go and check it out. It basically just gives you a breakdown of Hollywood and all the strange shit, especially to do with children, that goes on in Hollywood. And yeah, it's pretty eye-opening. An interesting part of that is like Walt Disney and a whole bunch of other like people who were kind of at the boom of Hollywood were all CIA. They were all tied to CIA, and therefore That's why we get what we call like programming or conditioning or messages put through movies and things that, you know, that steers your belief system, that steers the way you view things, because a lot of the people in charge of what is in those things are connected to CIA. And it sounds so tinfoil hatty to say that, like they're all CIA. But watch that documentary and you're like, oh, fuck, they are all CIA. It all makes sense now.
Out that some of the techniques for telepathically contacting the UAPs are similar to medieval scrying, and he singles out one technique in particular, which is the CE5 protocols of Dr. Stephen Greer, which I mentioned earlier in the video. You know, and Rection talks about how when he did his own CE5 experiment, he actually communicated with a spirit who told him about John Dee and Edward Kelly. So we're starting to come full circle now, circling back around from the modern UAP phenomenon to a direct connection through practice and experience of modern Enochian practitioners back to Enochian magic, a connection between the UAPs and the Enochian angels. And in other dream encounters that Daniel Rection had, he encounters an alien being.
Sorry, but that's crazy.
Who calls himself Galathog the Grey. Galathog is one of the angels from the Sigillum Deimeth. So at least for this.
Galathog the Grey. Bro. What am I doing with my life? Am I really here? Are we really, is 700 people really here watching videos about Galathog the Grey summoning UFOs on a Monday? Is that what we're all doing here? What the hell is going on? Guys, if you're enjoying this stream, please leave a like. It really helps with the video. Appreciate you all.
This practitioner, in this practitioner's experience, the angels are very much related to the UAP phenomenon. And in fact, Harold E. Puthoff, who was the...
Hell yeah, we're watching Galathog the Grey summon UFOs on a Monday. Hell yeah, we are.
Director of one of these remote viewing projects to contact the UAP entities, was a Scientologist.
Sorry, I keep interrupting because I do yap a lot, but he's talking about Hal Puthoff here, so let's listen.
Remote viewing projects to contact the UAP entities, was a Scientologist. So Scientology in turn comes from L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard got all of his best ideas from Jack Parsons, you know, who practiced Enochian magic. And Enochian magic is very connected to these encounters with angelic entities in medieval times, which manifest in modern times as the UAP entities. So if I had to put everything together, all that information that I've unpacked, and determine what it is that Matthew Brown's trying to tell us in his X post, it can be distilled down to a few points. AI is nothing compared to how advanced UAPs are. The UAPs are more spiritual than technological. There is a history of intelligence agencies trying to contact transcendental beings. There is also a link between the UAP phenomenon and the occult. There's evidence to suggest the UAPs are the same thing as the angels of antiquity. Contact has been going on for millennia and could be the origin point of entire religions or spiritual traditions. And the big story when it comes to contact events is telepathic communication rather than the retrieval of technology. The UAP or angelic contact phenomenon also says a lot about our own potential as human beings and our ability to manipulate reality beyond this dimension. There's lots of allusions to gateways into other dimensions and a lot of apocalyptic overtones in what Brown is saying, particularly with reference to the angel of Borimon. And really, I think what Matt Brown is alluding to here is...
Someone said there's a lot of child sacrifice at OWL events, and that just reminded me. So the other day in Discord, we were just talking shit, and for some reason we were talking about Hal Puthoff, and then somehow Al Puthoff came up, and I said I would make a meme of Al Puthoff, because obviously, yeah, they do like the Bohemian Grove, they all wear hoods and they worship an owl, and I just thought Al Puthoff sounded funny. But I never actually showed it, so I'm going to give you guys the exclusive. You know, it's probably not actually that funny, but it's funny because it's so stupid. This is Al Puthoff. I'm sorry, I'll never show that again.
Is the end of the black iron prison that is currently oppressing all of us and a mass awakening of humanity. and understanding the full history of our communication with these beings is a part of that process. But one sort of last bit of information I want to leave you with, or opinion I suppose, is that these beings, they're only intermediaries. And what they're pointing us towards really is the one that they serve, which is God. And, speaking to God is the original kind of contact with an extra-dimensional entity, the original and the best. And all the other forms of that contact can happen pale in comparison to that, and ultimately must serve that to be something that helps in our evolution. And I think that that's where Matthew Brown was trying to point us, because in his weaponized interview, when the interviewers ask him, is there any last thing you want to tell people, knowing full well that his life might be on the line, the thing that he chooses to tell us is that there is a God, and to come to realize that fact. Not to worry about whether these beings exist, but that God exists. Ultimately, that is the thing that we need to discover or rediscover. And maybe that's why one of the last bits of this enigmatic X post of Matt Brown's refers to Jesus. But that is everything that I wanted to say to unpack Matt Brown's post. I will leave it there. There's more that I could say. So hopefully you've gained some insight into some of these ideas, some of these bits of knowledge that I think Matt Brown was trying to point us towards, and you understand the significance of Aborimon and that symbol. And
So that's about that for that video, guys. Pretty interesting, hey? Like, I feel like he really had some cool insights. The way he went deep on a lot of the UAP stuff and like Jack Parsons, which I feel like is really relevant, not just because of the occult side of things, but the fact that that in that message, he's reaching out to Elon Musk, who you could say is almost like a modern Jack Parsons already. I mean, I don't know if he's not openly into the occult stuff, but like he's a kooky rocket guy, which is exactly what Jack Parsons was. And, by the way, there are those weird videos that like pop up every time there's like a public event that Elon's at, and like Elon Musk looks like everyone at a hardstyle rave. Okay, I'll just put it like that. His eyeballs, he looks like he's looking at his brain and he's chewing on his earlobes. You know what I'm saying? What's up with that? Like the first time I saw one of those, I was like, this can't be, like, this must be fake or something weird. But there's a lot of them. He seems to like really be, I don't know. Maybe like his reptilian cloak is starting to fail, and that's him like just trying to hang in there and keep the shield up. I honestly have no idea. It's a weird one. Elon is a tall, thick white. Elon is checked out to green pastures. He's on prescribed ket. I have actually heard that. I have heard he has a ketamine. I was about to say prescription, which I know is a thing. I think we have that here in Australia, but like from what I understand here in Australia, like you go into the hospital, you get the dose and you stay there while you have your dose and then you leave. I've never heard of ketamine just being like prescribed to just go and like, here you go, be good. Don't eat too many at once, which it looks like he has definitely eaten too many at once. Autism and drugs. Guys, to all my Americans, while I've been asleep, as it's Monday morning here, we're wrapping up the stream, but have I missed anything? Because, has anything breaking happened over the last, 12 hours that we maybe haven't talked about that we can check out on stream? We had a tenner. I think I missed this one. $10 coming in from LH. Keep up the good work, brother. And he also says, have you ever heard of the Art Bell and John Lear Moon Bases, UFOs, and Deep Space Secrets episode? There's a point precisely 45 minutes in that blew my mind. I haven't, but I do find John Lear fascinating, and I'd like to do a bit of John Lear deep diving on this channel eventually. There's a whole lot of things that are on the list, but we're getting through them the best we can. I appreciate the tenner, my man. Where is Toxic Fart? Where is Toxic Fart? That's a name that I almost have to read out in every single stream. But guys, I think by the sounds of things, that's about it. So a couple of things I will say. Join our Discord. The link is below. And guys, for those of you who frequent the streams, when we are doing streams like this, because streams are kind of just like a chill time to just kind of hang out, chat, catch up on what's going on, please feel free to drop videos or like TikToks and stuff like that in our Discord, and we can pull them up on stream and check them out if they're good. Pavel, Psychoactivo, greetings from Tijuana, Josh. Thank you, my man. Thanks for dropping into the stream. We're just finishing up, unfortunately, but it's been a good one. We looked at lifting the lamp, kind of break down the whole Matthew Brown thing, and it was really interesting, really cool to see his perspective coming from obviously like a very occult side of things. But yeah, we'll leave it at that, guys. I'm going to be moving into the studio in the next couple of days, so when you do see me next, hopefully I'll be in the new space, which is really just another room in my house. So again, thank you all for being here. I appreciate all the love, the super chats, everything, guys. It all honestly means more than I can say. Look after yourselves, be good, be kind. There'll be lots of stuff coming up on the channel soon. And we've got the full outro to play here because it hasn't been working lately. So hang out for that, enjoy it, and I'll see you all next time.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.